Um, Good morning. Welcome to the Transportation Authority of Calhoun County, September 23rd, 2025 meeting. I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order at 9:04 per the GPS. That's an inside joke there between KG and I. Madam Secretary, can you facilitate roll call, please?
Yes. Tom Tarkowitz.
Here.
Dr. Paul Watson.
Right.
Amy Evans.
Here.
Maya Williams.
Here.
Vivian Davis. Janasia
Here.
Morris.
Okay.
And ready to serve.
Yeah. Please call out those folks that are not ready to serve in the future. I'll deal with that. If they're always looking at opposing viewpoint. You understand that, right? Okay. Okay, if I can seek a motion for the approval of the August 26, 2025 minutes. Oh, no, the approval of the agenda. I apologize. I'm reading it and went to the next thing.
Let's start with the workshop, the budget workshop.
That is what we discussed, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, no way have that as part of the piece.
I have it as a separate agenda, so you could just adopt that agenda, and then when we adjourn the workshop, you'll adopt the general meeting agenda.
Thank you for that facilitation. Can I get a motion to move into the workshop agenda?
So moved.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion other than what was just facilitated? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Perfect. We'll go ahead and move into workshop time.
Yeah. So we're going to start today's meeting.
Wait, hold on just a
Sorry,
second.
go ahead.
Just point of order on the agenda. Next up is public comment. So
Public comment in the workshop.
Comment.
Yes, I'm switching to my agenda. Thank you for keeping me that part of order. Is there public comments? Okay, hearing now. Okay. No, I appreciate that's part of your role here, Commissioner. Okay. So we'll keep moving. What's the next agenda item while I move to that piece?
Budget
workshop.
workshop.
Okay.
All good?
I think we are good.
Tried to stall. I mean,
So we're going to start today's meeting with a budget workshop. Prior to you guys adopting the budget, we're going to take a deep look into the budget and take this opportunity to answer any questions that you may have about the budget, how we've developed the budget, and then I'm going to give you my recommendations. Those recommendations and the budget that we're going to go over in the workshop are also on the regular meeting agenda for formal adoption. As well as a resolution authorizing us to execute a master agreement with MDOT that reflects this budget and those reimbursement rates. So we're going to dive right in because I know we have a pretty hefty agenda, but the fiscal year 2026 starts October 1st, which is also the official designation date of the Transit Authority. So we have already submitted a draft budget to MDOT for them to make some of their local bus operating assistance calculations. And this budget reflects what we've submitted to MDOT as a reasonable estimate of how ramped up we expect to be in year one. So recognizing that it's going to take us a minute to get to full service levels that we have been discussing. This budget reflects kind of that phased in growth over the next year. Keeping in mind our fiscal year is 10/1 to 9/30. So this fiscal year ends September 30th of 2026. The first thing that I'll call your attention to on the proposed budget is the urban and rural breakdown. So as we talk about cost allocation plans and how MDOT reimburses us for funding, those rates vary based on urban service versus rural service. And the cost allocation methodology that we are using for that is hours of service. So we've built out service scenarios. We've applied our operating cost per hour to those service scenarios and then worked those expenses backwards into salaries and wages. This budget also accounts for the growth in positions. So as we talk about ramping up, this creates a whole new organizational structure for the transportation system that previously existed. Where we had a very lean staff before, we've now applied the adequate resources to be able to increase staffing at both the administration level as well as the frontline level. And so this reflects some of that hiring and additional positions that have been created. Our urban and rural expense breakdown, based on those hours of service, is that about 60% of our services are estimated to fall within our urban boundaries. That's primarily Battle Creek and Springfield. Our rural services are about 40%, and that would cover Marshall and Albion. Now, those urban and rural splits matter because it depends on how we report those expenses. That dictates how we get reimbursed. So our rural expenses get reimbursed by MDOT at up to 18% of our eligible expenses. Our urban services get reimbursed by the Federal Transit Administration, so separate entity, at up to 50%, capping at what our federal apportionment is. So every year, the Federal Register comes out and it gives us what our apportionment is for that fiscal year. I've shared this often, that we often run into fiscal years where we are well into that fiscal year, 6 months or more before that apportionment table comes out. This year, it didn't come out until April or May, and we're more than halfway through our fiscal year at that point. So we operate on a lot of assumptions, and we operate on a lot of legislation. And as that legislation changes, it changes how we develop our budget. So when I say that we've based this budget on a lot of assumptions, it's not assumptions that we are making, it's assumptions that we are making as a result of legislation. I'll walk you through the expense schedule first. We are required to break out our salaries and wages by drivers and operators. Actual vehicle operators have to be categorized in their own line item. And so this budget reflects that. The other salaries and wages, that would cover maintenance, administration, supervisors, and then we also have dispatchers' salaries and wages. Fringe benefits and OPEB liabilities, those are on their own line item. Everything gets that cost allocation applied to it, so that methodology goes across all of our expenses, anything that's eligible. And that's why you see even those things broken down by urban and rural. Advertising fees. So when we have meetings and we have to post public notices or public hearings, we account for those advertising costs whenever we do a solicitation or an RFP. Those things have to be published. They aren't expensive to publish, but budgeting for them. Audit costs. Although there may not be a lot to audit this year, audit costs are expensive. So we have budgeted slightly lower this year, knowing that our audit isn't going to be very intensive. And we have an RFP out right now for audit services to close out the fiscal year that's ending right now. I do anticipate that those audit costs will be higher in fiscal year 27, but for fiscal year 26, this is what we're looking at. Other services are several different line items. These could be things like professional services, legal services. Typically, things that we are contracting out are categorized under these other services. So IT, HR, accounting platforms, all of the things that we're embarking on right now are accounted for in that other services line item. Fuel and lubricants. So we break out our fuel expenses, obviously. As we're working through the implementation of a new accounting system, we're looking at how else we can allocate those expenses. And so fuel and lubricants is something we track, but also being able to track the amount of fuel used on demand responsive services versus fixed route services. We'll be able to get more granular in reports that we give to you. But for budgeting purposes, we're just breaking it out by urban and rural services. Tires and tubes, we do have a contract with a tire provider. So every year we issue a blanket PO essentially, or every 3 years we'll go out to bid for tires. So there are multiple options here. Right now, we choose to purchase our tires. In the future, as we continue to evaluate, we may look at leased tires, which is, an interesting concept, but you can lease tires, you can recap tires. And our maintenance department is very ingenuitive in how they approach things. So we are going to look at the tire contracts moving forward once this contract is over, and potentially use some of our 5307 money, which we typically use for operating. I've shared before the 5307 is at a 50% reimbursement rate. However, when you use it for capital, it can be used at 80%. So a great example here of how we differentiate those funding pots could be that preventive maintenance is a capital item. And so we can use that 5307, break out our estimated preventive maintenance expenses and get a higher reimbursement rate for those. So more work on the administrative side, but can potentially save, $10,000 to $15,000 over the course of the year. Major purchases would be things that are both capital, part of a capital improvement plan and not. So I'm going to give you a great example of our current facility. Our current facility is from 1995, and I believe the overhead doors are from then, if not sooner or later. And they break often, and they're not cheap to fix. They're extremely heavy doors, and we have about 13 of them. So when we have a door malfunction or break at the end of a day, when we're closing at 8 o'clock at night and we have to make an emergency call to overhead door, that's not a cheap call. Sometimes it requires a repair, sometimes it requires a replacement. So budgeting for some of those things that may go wrong like that is important so it doesn't throw our budget out, but also extending what we expect our capital outlay to be in this line item for the course of the next year. Recognizing we have primarily grants right now funding all of our capital purchases, we've put a smaller amount aside for capital outlay than I would in future years as we spend down those grants. Once those grants kind of dry up, all those ones that are open right now, we'll start setting aside additional. And then our team is working on developing a 5-year capital improvement plan. When we go through other materials and supplies, that would be additional things like bus parts, building supplies, building maintenance. Utilities is, exactly as it sounds, water, power, gas. Insurances. So we have currently budgeted $300,000 for insurance. The insurance piece is a difficult situation right now. As you know, we need general liability insurance at a minimum. However, the agreement that is on the agenda today with the city of Battle Creek does call out that the TACC is responsible for any expenses that the city incurs, including insurances. So we are working with the city right now to work through securing liability insurance that is adequate to support the city and what their deductible is. Now, it's difficult to predict how many events you may have that apply a deductible. Our hope is that we have 0 over the course of the next, 9 months. But in the event that we had an accident or a liability, the city would seek compensation for that. We've budgeted about $300,000 altogether for insurance premiums as well as any claims that may arise out of that. To be completely transparent, we're having a hard time securing insurance. And it's just because of the nature of this agreement over the next 9 months that, we can secure public entity management liability insurance, great. But because we don't own any assets at this point, and because there are no directly hired employees for the authority at this point, there is no insurable interest. So we're still out to market with about 4 or 5 different brokers looking for a solution to that. We do have all of the necessary coverages that this board requires. It's the additional coverages that the city is looking for that we're having a hard time securing. Again, that would be those liability and negligence claims because they are city assets and city employees. When we get to the regular meeting and the Battle Creek agreement, Rich and I can answer any of those questions you may have about it. The travel meetings and trainings, these are professional development, anticipating that over the course of the next year, we're going to be developing people moving into new positions and ensuring that they have the appropriate certifications and professional development to move into those roles. So as we go through conferences, conventions, and classes, those are what gets billed to that line item. And then we obviously also on our regular board meeting agenda have a travel policy that applies to that. Association dues and subscriptions. This line item covers things like our membership to APTA, which Maya just went to that conference. So these memberships give us access to training courses, conferences, networks, as well as support. So we reach out to these organizations if we need information on something, right? We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We can reach out to these networks and say, hey, can you share this recent RFP with us? Or can you help us develop this policy? They also help us on a legislative front. They write comments on draft legislation. They can lobby. They do things that we can't do. And obviously, any lobbying expenses we have to back out. The next line item is operating leases and rentals. This is anticipating that we're going to enter into some temporary lease agreements. A great example of this is parking lots. So we are exploring options for employee parking at our current facility. We have more employees than we have parking spaces. And so, we've kind of taken up all of the real estate available at 339 West Michigan. And we're looking at where else we can secure employee parking and expect that will result in a lease agreement. Depreciation, obviously the downfall to having newer assets is that we're depreciating them, and depreciation is not an eligible expense. So you will note that there is depreciation followed by ineligible depreciation. So our depreciation estimates have to be backed out of our expenses. MDOT and FTA will not reimburse you for depreciation. We depreciate our assets over their federally determined useful life. So we have our own depreciation schedules. Large buses, for example, are 12 years, where small minivans are 4 years. This is to ensure that the asset is fully depreciated by the time it's met its useful life, and then we're able to dispose of it without having to incur additional depreciation in that final year that it's been disposed. The ineligible association dues, this is the lobbying activities I was telling you about. So every year, each of those associations provides us a report, similar to the cost allocation methodology that we're using. They determine how many hours they spent lobbying, apply that as a percentage of overall time, and then we take that percentage of our association dues and determine that it's ineligible because that percentage of dues was used for lobbying. And then other ineligible expenses, these are going to be a lot of our first year items. So we are in contracts right now, for example, that may not be eligible for reimbursement because they began prior to us receiving our designation. And we knew that going into them. We knew that likely a lot of those things were going to be coming out of our local funds. And then we've escalated that as a cushion to cover any additional things that may come out of our local accounting. So right now, our local contracts include marketing, legal services, accounting services, the purchasing of accounting software, and then we have some vehicle wraps going on. We have a community event that we're planning, and if we were to purchase any additional vehicles without a state or federal grant, that would all come out of our local funds. And so we've just set that $1 million that's represented there aside as ineligible. The total expenses, you'll note, are $9 million, just over $9 million. And I'm going to move to the revenue side so that we can talk about what the assumptions look like here. The passenger fares, we again are estimating the same conversations we had before. There is proposed legislation that sets a minimum fare box requirement in order to receive local bus operating. I know later on at the regular meeting, Peter will give a legislative update for us as well, but we're keeping a close eye on that legislative boilerplate language that's part of the current budget bill. That budget language, as it stands right now, would set fare box recovery minimums. So before, we've talked about how we've always met about 7% fare box. And so a 6% fare box recovery rate shouldn't scare us. However, we know that in this first year, our expenses are going to be a little bit higher and we're not going to be at our full level of service. And so that does have me a little bit nervous that our fare box ratio may get thrown off. Also, the language that's there right now does not account for contracts. It doesn't account for past sales. It only accounts for passenger fares paid at the fare box as that language is written today. So, the state budget has not been finalized. There's still opportunity for that language to change. And again, Peter will give an update on that later, but just making you aware that we are going to strive for that 6%. And once that final bill is passed, it may cause us to come back and revisit the fare conversations that we had earlier prior to our January 1 estimated implementation of the fare rates. State operating assistance. This is local bus operating. You'll hear us talk about LBO quite a bit. This is the funding we get from MDOT that comes out of the Comprehensive Transportation Fund. This runs through the Act 51 formula. This is the funding pot I've been talking about frequently that is uncertain right now because the state has not passed a budget. So we estimated conservatively initially at 30% reimbursement. The state's current estimates are at 28% reimbursement. So this budget does reflect a change in that assumption from 30% to 28%. My hope is that when the state does pass a budget, that we're closer to that 30%. My feedback and comment on the proposed legislation right now has been that rather than tying fare box performance to receiving local bus operating, that we consider it a performance indicator that makes agencies eligible for a bonus. So I've shared with you the Small Transit Intensive Cities program, STIC. We get a bonus on the federal side every year for key performance indicators or metrics that we meet in, I think it's 7 or 8 different categories. Right now, we meet them in one, we're super close to another, but my comment back to the state has been rather than tying local bus operating to a specific metric, that we look at something similar to the federal program that is a plus up. So it's a bonus in addition to the baseline. We'll see where some of that feedback lands, but we're going to estimate right now the worst case scenario being 28% reimbursement. 5311, that is rural money only. So that's why you'll see that there is nothing on the revenue side for 5311 under the urban column and only in the rural. That's 18% of estimated expenses for the rural side. And then advertising. We have contracts that with a company that sells space on our vehicles. In fact, we have a full bus wrap that is going live in October that we've already sold, and one more on the way. So we sell interior space, we sell exterior space, small and large. We also sell advertising on our bus shelters. And so one of the things that'll be coming to you at a later date will be a formal advertising policy. But within our advertising contract, we have something called a minimum annual guarantee. The way this contract works is that it's a profit sharing. It doesn't cost us anything to have this contract. They sell the space at no cost. However, we split the profits 50-50. So, if they sell a bus wrap, they get $1,000 and we get $1,000 each month based on the sale of that bus wrap and how many periods it runs for. That minimum annual guarantee for fiscal year 26 is $46,000. So that's where that budget estimate comes from. Other non-transit revenue, that would be any revenues that we generate from miscellaneous sources, such as scrapping vehicles, right? So we have a lot of old vehicles and old equipment that we're trying to get rid of. We always part them out as far as we can. I call it Frankenstein them. We pull old, still usable pieces off of the old buses and keep them in our parts as inventory for future buses. Everything down to seats, wheelchair securements, anything that's still in a decent condition, we keep it as a spare part, and then we scrap the rest of the vehicle. Typically, by the time we're done with our vehicles, their resale value isn't great. My goal is that as we get into a state of good repair and we've replaced all of our assets, that we'll be able to start cycling through them while they still have some residual value, and we can sell them at a fair market value rather than a scrap value. Federal regulation does limit how much of those funds we can keep. So, it's not like we could make $100,000 off of a 12-year-old bus. A bus costs about $800,000 altogether. So it's not like we can make a ton of profit off of this. The federal regulations limit us at essentially between $5,000 and $10,000, depending on the asset. So that would be the most that we could retain from each asset. Most of the time, we do the same thing that other agencies have done to us. If we know of another agency that needs a vehicle, whether they've had a fire or an accident, or they're just waiting for grants to come in, we'll typically transfer or sell the assets to them, just as other agencies have done to us in the past. The local operating assistance, this represents a millage. So when we report local share now, we report it as taxes levied directly by a transit agency rather than general fund contributions. In the event we ever had local contracts with other municipalities or villages or townships, those would be reported in a separate line item that would be contracted services. That would not be local revenues. So just to differentiate there, if we had contracts for services, you would see those represented differently. We do anticipate that over the course of this next year, we're going to start talking both operational contracts and service contracts with third-party providers as well as other municipalities. And so I would expect that for the fiscal year 27 budget, you'll see a line item for that. And then as we look mid-year for potentially a budget adjustment or amendment, that you may see some items reflected for contracts there. And then the last revenue item is our federal section 5307. This is again an estimate. We won't know probably what this amount is until hopefully maybe February, March, but this represents the amount we received in fiscal year 24. So not this fiscal year's allocation, but the year prior's. One thing that I try not to do is inflate that number or apply a cost of living, that we would normally see at the federal and state levels. I try to hold that number stagnant because it's all, again, legislation. So there's been years where it's gone down a couple of percent, and then there's been years where it's gone up several percent. So just basing it on what we actually received in not this fiscal year, but the fiscal year prior. I expect that number may be slightly higher when the apportionment tables actually come out. So that brings us to a total budget where revenues are over expenses. And I want to talk about that for a minute. So the local operating assistance line item reflects a full millage levy. The full 2.66 mils would be levied on the winter taxes. And this is the beginning of building our fund balance. I will point to what's happening at the state level right now as the perfect example of why that's important. We have often talked about how our grants are reimbursement based. This is why we levied the taxes last winter and why we're recommending the full millage levy again this year. That reimbursement method means that we have to have those funds in the bank to pay our employees, to buy gas, to operate our vehicles, and wait for reimbursement. As we approach a state shutdown next week, there's not going to be our first payment. So where we normally would have gotten a payment on the 1st of October, we are already now a perfect example of why we levied that millage early so that we had the funds to start operating on October 1st. This budget represents us trying to get to a net position where we have a year of operating in our fund balance. So something should happen. Our millage renewal get delayed for any reason. The state or federal apportionment changes that would continue to, it would allow us to continue operating without having to ask any of the municipalities for assistance or without having to cut services. The question that I get asked most often is what happens if the millage doesn't pass, or what happens if funds get cut? The authority exists. The authority is now the designated provider of transportation in Calhoun County. The authority will always exist. If we were to not pass a millage or our millage renewal were delayed, we would still exist. We would still receive our 5307. We would still receive our 5311. We would still receive our local bus operating assistance. It's that local piece that would be missing. And so that means that we would have to cut about $4 million or $5 million worth of service and live within that budget. Now, the caveat to that is that all of our revenues are based on expenses. So when I cut my expenses, I'm also cutting my revenues. It's a complicated problem that I hope we don't encounter in 3 years, but ensuring that we have those funds to continue operating service in the community is the goal and why we're recommending the full levy of the millage for this fiscal year. And that begins building our fund balance, which they're on your regular meeting agenda. You'll see you also have a net position policy for adoption. So that takes us through the budget. I am happy to answer any questions you may have. Yes, Dr. Watson.
So I appreciate the approach to the fund balance. I think it's something that we would do. I would speak very strongly towards us doing that component. I do have a question. Different organizations, nonprofits have different limits or caps for the fund balance. I'm just curious, just to make sure I have a full understanding of this. Is there a limit or a maximum for a fund balance that the TACC can keep?
No.
Okay.
Our net position policy as presented today would say that we have 1 year of operating in reserves.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Vivian?
Yes, just advertising regarding the process just a little bit. Because when I make announcements that there is going to be a rollout and in my community. I had a business owner to come up and say, I want to be one of the first to get my advertising in. So is that a possibility yet, or what should he do?
It is. I can share, I can share with you the contact information for our advertising partner.
Okay.
They'll help with creative design. So, you know, if the individual doesn't already have, or the business doesn't already have
Yes.
a design.
Yes.
Okay. So, and there's all different options based on interior advertising versus exterior advertising, full vehicle advertising versus small parts of the vehicle. One of the things that I do think that this board will look at the next meeting would be that advertising policy, and then some strategy around what percentage of our fleet do we want to have full advertising on it so that we don't lose our brand of Ride Calhoun.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. So I can get that from you today, maybe? Okay. Thank you.
And just to be clear, we haven't decided yet. That may be part of the policy workshop for the policy committee.
Mhm.
Because that's a much bigger discussion to do during business time.
Yes.
So, because that advertising carries our image with that and so on and so forth. So we want to make sure we're on the same page, we're consistent with the message for the community and for the businesses that participate. So,
The heating and cooling.
yeah, no, I'm not speaking
Yeah.
any advertising opportunity up to this point. I'm just talking policy at a
Mhm.
high level. So, and methodology. Tom?
In your operating leases and rentals, does that include rental of the space that is currently owned by the city of Marshall and city of Battle Creek?
Yes, that is built into the operational expenses that already exist within the service agreement.
So is it in that line item or is it in another line item?
It is in the other services because it's a separate contract.
Okay, up top. Okay, I see. All right.
Yep.
And one other, operating leases and rental. You said that you're going to lease space for the parking, for employee parking. Is that better than purchasing the space if it's for sale? Is that a possibility?
Yeah, we've explored a couple of different options. I think short term until we determine where our long-term facility will be.
Yes.
That was the determining factor in deciding to go with a lease.
Mhm.
Obviously, we have our eyes on relocating, rebuilding our existing facility. We're looking at another grant right now for a new facility. We've outgrown our space, clearly, the fact that we need new parking.
Mhm.
So I don't know that that is a long-term solution until we hear a determination on some of those grants.
Precisely. Yeah,
Yep.
okay.
Any other questions, what have you? I do have a couple of pieces.
Thanks.
So just at a very high level, you know, budgets have priorities and so on and so forth. So correct me if I'm wrong, what I'm thinking I'm hearing is that our budget that you just presented, and thank you very much, was the priorities, not in any specific order, are based on operations,
Correct.
safety, federal and other supports, whether it be local or state, millage impacts, and then that net position policy of that 1 year operational costs. Am I missing anything? And I just wanted to be clear, just in terms of what I think we absorbed
Yes.
and where those priorities are and where the attention will go first as we talk about changes in legislation and so on and so forth. Am I correct assumption?
Yep.
Okay.
So our first priority in making the budget was ensuring we had the adequate staffing. So we started with the restructuring of our organizational chart and establishing the positions that are required to be there, as well as additional positions that didn't exist before, recognizing that there's going to be movement from within and allowing us to grow people's careers in transit. So that's kind of our first approach to it, was we need the right people in the right spots in order to ensure that we're successful in expanding our services.
100%. In conjunction with that, my other budgetary question is your contingencies, just to be clear, were based on past data and known data from our previous experience within the system
Mhm.
and then extrapolated for a countywide effect, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then another thing you alluded to that I just want to have clarity based on these budget priorities is that maintenance side of things. You alluded to, there's different operational things. We could use spare parts and so on and so forth. But what's paramount in this organization is safety.
Yes.
And that's why that budget priority is there. So we're taking a really close look, maintenance wise, that those spare parts meet some type of minimum standard spec and so on and so forth to be back in operation.
Correct.
Okay, just being clear, that is the balance of my questions. Any other questions?
I do have one.
Okay. And then I'll come to you, Amy. Doc?
Oh, you want to go ahead.
I just wanted to say thank you for your very thorough presentation of this budget, because I mean, it's so good that there hardly are any questions that
Thank
shows
you.
a job well done, so thank you.
Thank you.
Great work.
Thank you.
Doc?
It's a quick one. It's an assumption I had when I read with the organizational chart and everything else, and I was like, I'm gonna just voice it and ask this question. So because those salaries are built in that are currently vacant, you're gonna establish some vacancy savings. So let's say once you have a month where that position is not filled, you now have additional savings
Yep.
in this year's budget. So my assumption is you're just gonna use that in the short term to help continue to buffer the fund balance.
Correct. Yep. And that is a perfect point that I did not touch on. You're correct. This budget represents as if that org chart was 100% full, recognizing that it's going to take us a few months to get there. And it may take us several months to get fully there on the frontline side. So we'll have some realized savings there that would go into the fund balance.
Yep. And my final comment would just be, just kudos to you. It's a well thought out, well articulated budget. I think it's forward looking, which I appreciate, in terms of setting up the TACC for continued success in spite of all the other turbulent things that happen around. So just thank you to you and the team that worked on it. I know building budgets like these are a lot of work, especially when you have to manage the what do I cut that affects revenue, and you have this very delicate balance. So I appreciate that, and I know the sensitivity that comes to making the decision. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other observations, questions, comments? I'll echo those sentiments of thank you for a very thorough read of the budget and thoughtfulness, not just by yourself, but I know staff helped as well, and what have you. But just for the board's input, this matches our mission fully in terms of baking out a piece that we're proud to present to the region and where our associates can work, live, create a quality of experience for the general community and themselves as well. Remember, our goal is to have not just nice equipment or a nice environment, but a pleasurable experience for every rider that steps into not only the facility, but the facilities that provide the mobility, no matter what the form is. So this is a good step in that direction. I just wanted to make that clear. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Let's move on to our next agenda item. And do we have any other workshop comments or what have you? I know we have a challenge with insurance.
Yeah.
So we're working on that on a
I will-
daily basis.
I will keep you updated on the insurance. In the event that it requires us to call a special meeting, we'll ensure that we post that in compliance with OMA. And I will get with all of you guys. I am hoping to hear by the end of this week from each of those different brokers.
Our next agenda item are any public comments on non-agenda items? Okay, hearing none, you can observe the next meeting dates and what have you. If there's no comments on that section, I'll move into adjournment of the workshop and then commence with our regular meeting.
So move.
It's been moved. Is there any support? Support. All those in favor signify by saying aye. So let's pivot back to our regular meeting agenda. I think we're at approval of this agenda is where we left off. Well, not left off, but do we have to reopen this meeting and call this meeting to order since this is yeah.
Yeah, because it's a different meeting.
Yeah. Absolutely. So we ended the workshop, just to be clear, and this is for me, okay? Obviously, I'm struggling today, just to be clear. And then we'll open the Transportation Authority of Calhoun County general meeting on September 23rd. Can we take roll call, please, Madam Secretary?
Thank you. Tom Tarkowitz.
Here.
Dr. Paul Watson. Amy Evans.
Here.
Maya Williams.
Here.
Vivian Davis. Eric Stewart.
Present.
And Janesha Morris.
Here.
Perfect. I'll go ahead and call for approval of the agenda.
Moved, Watson.
Okay.
Support.
Okay, it's been moved and supported. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Perfect. We'll move right on into the approval of the August 26, 2025 minutes.
So moved, Watson.
Support Vivi Davis.
Okay. All of those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Great. We'll go ahead and move into the consent agenda. Is there any need to pull out any part of any report, the consent agenda for the finance and budget report? Public comments. I don't know what is going on with me today. Hey, you can say that out loud. It's okay. Point of order.
Getting this together.
Of order. And we'll move back to public comments. Are there any public comments on agenda items? Somebody say something to save me. Okay?
Goodbye, John.
Yeah, you missed
Oh, apparently I don't want to deal with any public comment today. I don't know what's going on. Okay, well, now we'll move right into the consent agenda part. And as I stated before, the items that are on the consent agenda, the finance and budget report, are there any pieces that we want to pull out of there?
Nope. Move acceptance as presented, Watson.
Perfect. It's been moved and supported. Any comments? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Perfect. We'll move on. If I can continue reading. Public hearings and subsequent board action. Commissioner, that was the next item.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Are there any public hearings and subsequent board action that we need to discuss? Okay, thank you. We'll move on to unfinished business, community events. We have 2 events coming up, and Mallory, I want to start with you in terms of giving us a little background on the purpose, how we got here, why they're conducted where they are, and the timing.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So the purpose of these events is, community outreach, to be able to get into the communities that we're serving, show them what we're doing, not just talk about it or have them watch it on YouTube, but actually to go to the community and be able to talk about our vision, update everybody on the implementation plan, and then kind of celebrate the launch of Ride Calhoun. So for the timing piece of it, our designation is official. We have the governor's letter saying that effective October 1st, we are the designated recipient.
Yes.
And so the timing of these events kind of is surrounding the October 1st date. So our first event is September 30th in Albion. And then October 8th in Battle Creek. We chose these locations as the first 2 as recognizing Albion is a community that has never had transportation. And so this is an entirely new thing. And the residents of Marshall, it's not a terrible commute to Albion if they would like to attend that one. And then in Battle Creek, this is an opportunity to showcase how it's going to be different, what it looks like now, what is changing over the course of the next several months. Those are the questions that we're getting from the community. We're not, the lights aren't turning off on September 30th and turning back on October 1st as if everything is brand new. It's going to take us a minute in communicating with the public what they can expect, what that timing looks like, and how it's going to change for them. Obviously, that's the resounding comment that how does this impact me? And we just want to go out to where people are and meet them where they are to answer those questions. Eric and I have a presentation planned at each of these events, and the event itself will run about an hour and a half is the time we have, including time in that hour and a half for public questions, comments, and then board interaction. So for our board to be there and be able to meet with our constituents and answer any questions they may have. We'll have swag. We'll have a welcome table that will have information. Our staff is prepared, all hands on deck to attend the events and answer those questions for the community. And then also an unveiling of our new Ride Calhoun vehicles. So the timing also coincided with the ability for us to get some of these vehicles wrapped. The first vehicle is being wrapped this week. And then we're hoping by the end of the week or early next week, a large bus is getting wrapped. So for the Battle Creek event, we hope to bring a large bus. And for the Albion event, we'll be bringing an RC Flex vehicle.
Okay.
So we are working with King Media on the flyers and things like that. Vivian, I will get with you after this meeting to confirm the location in Albion. The Battle Creek location will be the Cool Family Community Center. And is it Boyd, the Boyd Room?
Lou Boyd Room, yes.
Yes. And perfect spot right there in that big parking lot for us to be able to pull up a bus for people to see. And, we're excited. Thank you for your help coordinating that.
The bus won't fit in the little boy room?
It probably would. You got big doors?
Be there next to the presentation. So we have outreach and so on and so forth. One thing that I will strongly encourage is once we get the data from King Media, we widely distribute within our networks, communities, and so on and so forth. I think that Mallory, you'll get with Doug and make sure his folks and his leadership have those pieces in order. And then Ms. Williams, with your day job in conjunction with the senior community.
Yes.
I know how important that is so that you don't have a mutiny on your hands that
Absolutely.
happened at that facility that, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
I want to respect that community because they'll come after you and what have you. So no, it's good. I think that this is positive. Any questions for Mallory about those events?
Just one. Is there going to be something in this weekend's Marshall and Albion paper?
I don't know if it will be in the paper. We were hoping to get in the newsletters for each of the chambers.
Reach the
That
community?
has gone out.
See how quickly we can get something turned around.
Because typically, I guess I looked at Marcia, is typically Wednesday noon is the deadline for the, I still call it Advisor Chronicle and.
It is, yeah.
Wednesday.
Yeah. Because that's really the only communication in Marshall that's there.
Well, King Media has already called me this morning, so I will return their call after this meeting and see how quickly we can get a graphic turned around for publication.
That was my biggest concern too, because this has already gone out for the chamber. So how are we going to get the word out within a week? So.
We'll plaster every spot we can find with flyers.
Okay.
Oh, Vivian, you don't want me to answer that question for Albion,
Well-
which you sitting here. I think we've answered that question. If you're sitting here,
Something in my hand to put on.
yeah,
and
we know how you
put
operate.
on Facebook.
Okay.
Yes.
In that thought, I looked to Matt, will Matt have something that his drivers can hand out to the riders this week?
Distribute them on the vehicles as well. Yeah.
Want to keep you in this.
Okay, any other questions for Mallory or observations for the good of the group? Perfect, thank you. We'll see you all at those events and what have you. And, make sure we pick up our Ride Calhoun swag.
Yep, it should be here the 28th.
That's what we're hoping.
Yep. And, scheduling separate media trainings with each of you, with King Media, just to prepare. So they are inviting media as well as, local elected officials to the event. And so we'll coordinate individual media trainings with you.
And I want to correct something that you said, not that it was an error or anything like that. You made mention to, on the 30th, it's not like the lights will switch off and on the 1st. But I challenge that because the feel of what the community's getting is going to switch on that day.
Yes.
And this is a much different animal. You can tell by the budget that we talked about in the workshop. You can tell by how the presentation that Mallory had for us of staffing and so on and so forth, and the thoughtfulness that goes into the training and development and so on and so forth of what's been created. That's a much different feel, much different hands-on approach. And I'm hoping that the community feels that as well as we move forward. So that although you won't see a brand new building pop up out of the ground on the 1st, you will have an image and thought process change that will continue to improve over time. Okay, great. Let's move on into new business. Mallory, can you walk us through the extensive resolution piece that you brought before us, please?
So on our agenda today is a handful of financial policies. So given that October 1st, we are the designated recipient of all of these funds, we needed some policies in place to ensure that we were compliant in receiving those funds. So the first is related to our budget, and that is that net position policy. This first resolution, Resolution 06-2025, would adopt or approve the net position policy. The policy itself says that not only will we develop a capital improvement plan and set aside funds specifically for capital, which speaks to Eric's previous point about doing things differently, but it also outlines our operating position and what we desire our operating position to be. Again, as I shared during the budget workshop, the policy here reflects that we will have 1 year of operating in reserves. Now, as long as that those reserves can include investments, as long as those are unrestricted investments, so meaning that they are accessible, they can be liquidated at any time in the event that we need to use them. So this policy reflects that. And in the next, I would say 6 months, we'll be bringing a capital improvement plan forward as part of this policy in developing the 2027 budget, which we'll be bringing in February for its initial review. Any particular questions about the net position policy?
Council, I'm asking for a little bit of clarity and question. In telling with these resolutions, do we want to go ahead and approve these one at a time or?
Oh, yeah.
Would have been nice, well, if you would have put up a specific, then I guess you could have, but here you probably need to do it
One at a time. Are we in agreement with that, Commissioner?
Yeah, my suggestion, the way that we do it in our meetings and it really just flows smoothly is reading a little introduction of what the resolution is and then making a motion for each resolution, but we do have to do them separately.
Perfect. Okay.
I don't know who would do that.
Was that agenda adequate?
Yeah,
I mean, that explanation adequate? Okay, all right. I just wanted an example. All right.
I'll move approval for the first policy.
Okay, Dr. Watson has moved approval for the first. Is there a second?
Support.
Okay, it's been moved and supported. Understanding there's no other discussion. Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Great, let's move to the next item.
The next item is Resolution 07-2025, This resolution authorizes the filing of applications with the Federal Transit Administration and operating administration of the US DOT for federal transportation assistance authorized by 49 USC Chapter 53, Title 23 of the United States Code or other federal statutes administered by the Federal Transit Administration. This is what gives us the authority. So we've submitted our designation letter from the governor. We've submitted our opinion of council, and this is the last piece, authorizing the actual application of grants to the Federal Transit Administration.
Move to approve resolution 07-2025.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Same sign. Excellent.
Great. The next resolution is Resolution 08-2025. This resolution is called a resolution of intent. It is a resolution of intent to apply for state financial assistance under Act 51. You can see that this also reflects our budget numbers. So traditionally, this would be done in February as we are applying for state grants. So you will see this resolution of intent again for fiscal year 27 in February or January of 2026. This resolution of intent outlines that we have a surplus budget, meaning that our revenues are over expenses.
That's good. Move to support resolution 08-2025.
Support Watson.
It's moved and supported. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Excellent.
Next resolution is resolution, we just did 08, right?
Yep.
Yes.
09.
Resolution 09-2025. This is a resolution to approve a support services agreement with the city of Battle Creek, where the city would provide operational, maintenance, administrative, managerial, financial, and technical services to the TACC from October 1st, 2025 through June 30th of 2026.
There a motion to approve? Amy? His
Support.
motion. Okay, great. It's been moved and supported. Any other discussion?
If you have any questions, Rich can answer those.
Yeah. Is there any nuance that we need to be aware of, Counselor?
I think, Your Honor, it's one of, sorry.
You just call me Your Honor? All right.
Sure, right?
Yeah, I am. There's a first time for everything, and I feel very,
Yeah.
I feel very good. Let me just get over the euphoria.
Okay, are you? You're sufficiently impressed by, so I think the only nuance is what Mallory touched on is the insurance piece. And I think the issue that we're running into is having no physical assets and having the insurance company ensuring that. Just to explain it a little bit, the city is concerned about their SIR, which is their self-insured retention. And if we can get that portion insured, I think we'll be fine. If not, contingency plan is to go back to them and have them discuss and negotiate how we can move past that piece. One of the suggestions is to maybe even share in the cost or something. Here's my thing, if I could speak candidly. We have a contract, supportive contract, services contract with them where they're acting as a contractor. Most contractors, if they're providing services, insure, if this was a commercial entity, they would be insuring their vehicles and they would take on that liability. They would bake that cost into the service and we would, write a check to them and ensuring that any premiums or anything like that would be baked in our costs. That is where I want to go. But we'll see what we do as far as the insurance. But it is, and Mallory backed me up on this. It is in my opinion, the price of doing business. I know municipalities are not always comfortable with that portion of it, but that's what they are for these 9 months. And so we'll see where we're gonna land, but if Mallory tells me we can't get insured, that's gonna be my next step.
If I'll elaborate a little bit on, we've tried to approach multiple different ways to obtain insurance. We have sought insurance to pay the city's SIR, so their self-insured retention is $1 million. This means that every claim is the city's responsibility up to $1 million. Their insurance doesn't kick in until after that. And it isn't necessarily the $1 million claims we're worried about, right? Or the $3 million claims that we're worried about. It's the $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 claims that we're worried about. And if there were 4 of those claims, well, now we no longer have operating funds or a fund balance. If the city expects that the TAC is responsible for that liability. The city is obviously trying to mitigate their risk, which is understandable. But what we're trying to do is share in that risk, not bear the full burden of it. So, I think we've had conversations with the city's risk manager multiple times that this is a short-term risk for a long-term reward of the city being out of the transit business. And we want to be able to come to an agreement that represents a shared responsibility of that risk. So we have some calls out right now with a new plan of action, being that the city potentially separate out all of the transit assets and obtain a separate insurance policy. The city obtain a separate insurance policy because the TAC can't. And the TAC would reimburse the city for the cost of those premiums. That does not include $1 million deductible. That has a more affordable deductible. Obviously, being a brand new organization, we can afford higher premiums, lower deductible. Maybe that position changes in the future, but that's the approach that we're working on right now as of Friday of last week. So it is a daily conversation over the mitigating the risk and liability.
Thank you.
Okay, any other, I assume I hear an abstention coming based on the,
No, I just have a couple
content.
questions.
Okay.
So question number 1 is, so because this insurance piece is not together, is it okay for us to still move forward with this today? Or do we need to amend it or?
So my recommendation would be to, your motion would be to approve this as written with the authority to amend it if we need to.
Okay.
And have your executive director be able to sign off on those amendments.
And then my second question, which you might be able to help me with this. This has already came before me for the city commission. I was not there, I did not vote, but I'm not sure if I should vote now.
I would say no. Do you
Okay.
have a quorum outside of you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna call for an abstention
Yeah.
for you. But just based on the nature of what we're talking about and how we've handled other agreements within the city and what have you. So that's just safety piece.
So you can still support it, you just can't vote on it? Okay.
Could I ask for a friendly amendment then? Whoever made the motion.
Absolutely. Are we done with the counselor?
I do have one. So, Mr. Sherry, on my resolution, I do have that the proposed support services agreement with the TAC as set forth in the proposed agreement attached here, or one with substantially similar terms as may be approved by TAC legal counsel. Is that sufficient?
Sufficient. Wow. Good forethought.
know. Great, Mal.
That was a money-saving statement. Sounds like Counselor Cherry wrote. Man,
Hey.
yeah, yeah, you better copyright that. Okay, Dr. Watson.
I'm withdraw that request for a friendly amendment. I think we're good then.
Okay, perfect. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Been moved.
Support.
Any other discussion other than what we just discussed? Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Perfect. Let's move on to, resolution 10, 2025. Not so fast, Council.
Yeah, and that might be up again.
Yes, so Resolution 10 is a support services agreement with the city of Marshall. Same language, I'll read. The Transportation Authority of Calhoun County seeks to enter into a support services agreement with the city of Marshall, where the city would provide operational, maintenance, administrative, managerial, financial, and technical services to the TAC from October 1, 2025 through June 30, 2026.
Any nuance there, related to Marshall, or is that a little less complicated?
It's a little, well, it's a little less complicated for now. I think the issue is I haven't gotten any, comments from the city of Marshall's attorney yet, so I don't know exactly what, if any, comments or changes they're going, maybe. So I think where we're at right now is, he did indicate, the city attorney indicated that he would have comments to me today. If those comments are minor, we should be fine. But if there are some major issues, then there might be some negotiation back and forth. So the resolution that we have is going to be the same. Exactly the same. So, and the supportive services agreement is a little different in that we don't have an SIR to worry about.
Sure.
And so it makes it a little bit simpler.
So just to be clear, based on negotiation, we have that same, attorney review language a part of that, and the intent has that nuance to it.
Yes.
Okay,
Correct.
great. Tom?
No, I'm just ready to make a motion. I would like to make a motion to approve resolution 10, 2025 and give the executive director and chair and TAC attorney for minor changes to be approved.
It's been moved and supported. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Perfect. I think we're moving on to 11-2025 travel policy.
Sorry, trying not to go past them. One of the things we talked about before was the need for a federally approved travel policy. And so Resolution 11-2025 recognizes the need for a travel and expense policy in accordance with 2 CFR 200.474 transportation costs regarding allowable travel costs under federal grants.
Move for the approval of resolution 11-2025.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, same sign. Perfect. Resolution 11-2025 passes. Resolution 12-2025, investment policy.
Resolution 12-2025 recognizes the need for an investment policy to comply with 1, Sections 1 and 5 of the Investment and Surplus Funds of Political Subdivisions Act Number 20 of Public Act 1943, and 2, Section 6 of the Surplus Funds and Treasury Act Number 105 of Public Act 1855, being Sections 21.146 in the Michigan compiled laws.
Move approval 12-2025 Watson.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same time. Perfect. Move on to resolution 13-2025, credit card policy.
As we move forward with implementing accounting software and transitioning the handling of all of tax finances to staff from the board, thank you, Amy and Maya, over the last several months, we recognize the need for purchasing cards for TAC-approved employees. So this policy, Resolution 13-2025, would adopt a policy for credit cards that complies with Public Act 266 of 1995.
Move approval, resolution 13-2025, Watson.
Support.
Okay, it's been moved and supported. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. We'll move on to resolution 14-2025, federal grant compensation policy.
Resolution 14-2025 recognizes the need for a federal grant compensation policy to comply with the Office of Management and Budget's uniform administrative requirements, cost principles, and audit requirements for federal awards, commonly known as uniform guidance, as set forth in 2 CFR Part 200, Subpart E, and Section 200.431, including compensation and fringe benefits, as well as applicable provisions of the Federal Compliance Supplement.
I move to support or approve resolution 14-2025.
Okay, motion's
Support.
carried. There's been support. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Same sign. Excellent. Move on to resolution 15-2025, federal grant management policy.
Thank you. Resolution 15-2025 recognizes the need for a federal grant management policy to comply with the Office of Management and Budget's uniform administrative requirements, cost principles, and audit requirements for federal awards or uniform guidance.
I move support of resolution 15-2025. Davis. Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We'll move on to resolution 16-2025, BCATS appointments.
Yes. Resolution 16-2025 recognizes that the TACC is a participating member of the Battle Creek Area Transportation Study, or BCATS, our designated MPO, where the TACC is an active and voting member of the BCATS Technical Committee and the BCATS Policy Committee. This resolution would appoint Executive Director Mallory Avis to BCATS Policy Committee, Director of Administration and Planning Christy Christini to the BCATS Technical Committee, and Director of Operations Brendan Pizzala as the permanent alternate to both aforementioned appointments.
Move approval, resolution 16-2025.
Support.
Any other discussion? It's been moved and supported. Any other discussion? This is the only resolution I have a problem with because that means that I'm not required to be at any BCATS meetings in official capacity. I actually enjoyed my time at BCATS. I thought I was gonna be there for at least a year. Well, no, it's different when you sit on the dais. Look, let me tell you something.
Oh, I sit up there, I
Go
know.
to the arena and start off in the suites, and then they move you down to the gym. There's all kinds of treats up there. You know what I'm saying? And so I will attend the meetings in the hot dog section, but it's fine.
If you would like.
No, we're already moved. We've already moved a direction. That wasn't logged as a complaint. It was logged with affection for BCATS. All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Perfect. Resolution passes. Resolution 17-2025, fiscal year 2026 budget and organizational structure.
Resolution 17-2025 would approve our budget, and I'm going to read through this resolution. This budget was prepared using assumptions provided by the state of Michigan, the Federal Transit Administration, and Calhoun County government. And whereas the budget assumes state reimbursement rates of 28% for local bus operating, 18% for 5311 and other miscellaneous grants. And whereas the budget assumes federal reimbursement rates of up to 50% based on fiscal year 2024 apportionments. Whereas the budget assumes local millage capture of $4,724,917 based on voter-approved millage rates of 2.66 mils levied annually in winter tax collections. Whereas the budget complies with the board-approved policies and procedures, including the net position policy. Now therefore be it resolved that the Transportation Authority of Calhoun County formally adopts the fiscal year 2026 budget as proposed. The attachments with this resolution are the budget that we went over in the workshop, as well as that organizational structure that would take effect 10/1.
Perfect.
I move to approve resolution 17-2025.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any other discussion?
Does this need to be a roll call vote?
Thank you, Tom. No, thank you, Tom. And Council Sherry. Okay, we can facilitate roll call vote, please.
Yes. Tom Tarkowitz.
Yes.
Dr. Watson,
Yes.
Yes.
Vivian Davis, yes. Amy Evans.
Yes.
Maya Williams.
Yes.
And Janesha Morris.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
unanimous.
Okay, it's unanimous vote. We'll go ahead and ratify that resolution based on that vote and move forward. Moving on to Resolution 18, 2025, MDOT blanket signature resolution.
So this resolution came in at the 11th hour. Thank you guys for allowing me to add it. The state of Michigan has finally sent us our master agreement. This master agreement is what allows us to receive funds and enter into contracts for grants with MDOT. So previously, you guys adopted a resolution giving me the authority to sign grants. This gives me the authority to sign the master agreements that those grants would fall under. So Resolution 18, 2025, whereas the Transportation Authority of Calhoun County has the authority to contract with the Michigan Department of Transportation for state and/or federal funds for passenger transportation related services, and therefore be it resolved that the Executive Director of the Transportation Authority of Calhoun County be authorized and directed to execute said agreement 2026-0004 for and on behalf of the Transportation Authority of Calhoun County. I will add one last piece. All of our grants that we receive from MDOT will now be under that 2026-0004. That's essentially our recipient ID with the state of Michigan.
All right. It's an important.
Approve resolution 18-2025.
Support Davis.
It's been moved and supported. Any other discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. I'd like to ask a point of clarity. If Counselor, if I can ask you a question real quick, and it's kind of related to these resolutions too. Dr. Watson asked me a very good question related to our executive director's contract and what have you that we have in place. So it's my understanding that we have a contract in place for a period of time versus a resolution of hiring into the authority. That would happen at the conclusion of that contract or some subsequent time that you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Did I get that, Doc, based on your question? Okay.
So her her service agreement ends October 1st, essentially. And then the supportive service agreement that you just approved kicks in, and then that lasts until June 30th, I believe. And so in the meantime, the board is perfectly within its rights to negotiate a employment contract with the executive director. And then we can amend the actual supportive service contract if we need to.
Perfect. Just wanted to get that clarification in terms of timing and things of that nature. Thank you, Doc, for asking that question. Okay, moving on to public comments and non-agenda items. Are there any public comments? Hearing none, we'll move on to board and executive director comments. And the first line item is communications to the board. Any communications to the board?
The only communication I will share is that we received a request from NPC 11 in Battle Creek to have Ride Calhoun come give a presentation. They were looking for us to come this week. I think it would have been today, I think. But I asked them if we could push it to October when we have materials and vehicles and things like that to bring with us and after our community outreach events. So they were agreeable to that, and we are on their calendar for NPC 11. I would say if there are community events that you would like us to get in front of in your respective communities as staff or as a board, start getting those on our radar so we can start scheduling out and making sure that we have enough materials for those events.
Did you say October 11th?
No, the NPC 11,
Oh,
the date I think is October 28th or 29th.
okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Any other communications to the board?
Nope.
Perfect.
Well, there are no, okay, communications. I did receive confirmation regarding the 30th in Albion, and it will be at the high school.
The
Marshall
opportunity.
Opportunity High School.
Perfect, thank you.
So this will be, I think, a joint effort. We would invite you to come to that meeting, the rollout.
Great, thank you.
If we could have on our next agenda, not the work session, a discussion on our November 11th work session on location. I've asked downstairs, the city staff are gone, but I'm finding out if Choose Marshall is here, that the building would be open. So maybe we can, at that meeting at the end of October, I will know more, and then we can decide if we want to move to another location for that end of October, first meeting in November. So just if we could have it on the agenda.
Yep.
November 11th.
Asking for the location of the workshop to be on the agenda or for
Yes.
that workshop?
Yes.
Okay.
May be closed.
I'll have more information. They took my keys away.
I'll ask you what you did later. No, that's perfect. Thank you. Any legislative updates?
I'm gonna turn it over to Peter to give a legislative update. Peter and Clark have been working with the State House and the State Senate on our behalf in talking about what some of the impacts of the proposed budgets would be. I think Peter and Clark both have great relationships with elected officials and history in both the House and the Senate. So Peter, if you wanted to give a legislative update.
Right, thank you. Now, one of the issues that came up was section 227 in the House bill. That one is only referring to grants. It is not referring to local bus operating. You saw the line item in your budget that talks about local bus operating. So that. Now, there's a possibility there's grants that the TAC could receive that could fall under that category. And we actually think it's inappropriate for the legislature to pass something that's not in conformance with Act 51, which is the bill under which you are funded. So this takes a piece out of Act 51 and assumes that it's going to be changed. In this business, I've seen Act 51 come up several times in my career, and every time it falls apart because then everybody tries to get their hand into the act. And so then it falls apart. So there is no legal provision that could be administered under that to even eliminate grants. Regardless, I spoke to the House fiscal analyst that was managing this bill, and I spoke in detail about that. And he said, well, he doesn't even understand why they have this language because they're really trying to apply it to people who got grants who don't even belong to any entities. Apparently, it doesn't happen. Okay, so you are an entity, so it's a different kind of situation. And the next phase of what I want to do, especially because Senator Winnie Brinks is in my district, I'm going to go through Winnie Brinks personally, through her staff, to cut that language out in the Senate. So then it's not even going to be there, and there's no reason to go through some sort of process which we try to manage the two proposals, okay? So, and I believe that the Winnie Brinks's office will look at that. So that's something you should know I'm going to be engaging in that on your behalf, to have that section cut out of the bill even, let alone just not, it's not going to be on the Senate side. So at some point, you take the House and the Senate side, and you're going to have some sort of conference to come up with what the bill is going to be looking like. Right now, it looks like the bill is not going to be passed by the right timing for the fiscal year. Mostly because they haven't had any sessions between the House and Senate members to find out what the conference should look like. That, I would assume, is what's going to happen until there's some pressure on the government for when the budget stops, then there's the parts of the government is not being funded properly. So, and I just let you know that that is, it's nothing that you should worry about. I know that was raised in this issue, but I looked at it, there's specifically that talks about grants, and you have very few expected grants. And if any, it's going to be a match to some federal grant or some other grant that you're going to get that you're not aware of yet. So I wouldn't worry about the budgetary issues. I think that you should hold forth and trust the process that on the Senate side, this is not going to be agreed to because it's not within law.
Thank you, Peter. I know, I'll share with you guys, a couple of weeks ago, we canceled our budget workshop that we were supposed to have, as I joined the executive board of the Michigan Public Transit Association in Lansing to meet with our elected officials. And there I had the opportunity to meet with Representative Leitner. I'm actually meeting with her office again this week. I had the opportunity to speak with Representative Frisbee, who was a major part of establishing the Transportation Authority of Calhoun County while he was a county commissioner. And then Senator Albert, we had a good conversation. The language Peter is referencing in Section 227 is the language that Christy had sent in the email, I believe, at the end of August, where boilerplate language was added, basically saying that an entity that has not been established for 3 years was not eligible to receive grants. And that language had us nervous that, that would be detrimental to us, that, the majority of our operating comes from grants. And if we were not eligible for grants for 3 years, that would be a big deal. That language had us more concerned than farebox language and any of the other random things that had been added as boilerplate language to that budget bill. Through Peter's discussions with Mr. Hamilton at the House Fiscal Agency, that we don't necessarily have to be concerned about that language impacting our local bus operating assistance, that operating piece. It could potentially, if we're not able to remove that language, it could potentially impact that match to state grants or federal grants. So remember, the feds give us 80% of the total cost. The state matches with 20% of the total cost. So if some determination was made that we were not eligible for grant funding, it would likely be those pieces, not the pieces that flow through Act 51, based on the conversations that Peter and Clark have been having. Still, I think we're striving to either have that language amended or completely removed so that there isn't any gray area of interpretation. And Representative Frisbee has followed up with me on some of his conversations on that. I think from my perspective, we're an unintended consequence of something else. This language wasn't added to harm us. This language was likely added to fix a different problem, and we are the unintended consequence of it. So just helping our legislators understand how this would impact us and why we would like to see it changed, or to see us recognized as not a new entity, but rather, in a system that existed previously was eligible for grants, and so we carry through that eligibility. That is all.
I do not foresee it being in the Senate version. So it's not there. It's only in the House version. So now how do you deal with it in conference? But you cannot change Act 51 unless you put something into Act 51, not in a budget bill. So that's really the bottom line is this is impossible to deal with. Moreover, you have the governor's letter already. You're a designated recipient of funds in the state of Michigan, okay? So, and you will shortly be designated recipient of federal funds from the Federal Transit Administration. Once that's done, you are the entity that's going to be receiving those funds. So who's going to try to exercise this language to do something? It's legally impossible. So I'm not worried about it. I'm just gonna let you, I'll advise Mallory about what my conversations with Ms. Brink's staff is, because I think that's the best place to deal with this. Is to even have it cut out maybe of the bill, but certainly it's not gonna be in the Senate version because there's a lot of things in there that's in the House, that's not in the Senate. Those things are also gonna fall apart. When you have a conflict in government between the House and the Senate, you have to resolve things in conference. You can't just put something in a bill and that's that. So that is not happening yet, and the time is ticking. So I would say that you should not worry about that. You should just put that aside. You have a really good basis for what you agreed today, with all the policies and all the procedures to move forward. You're clear, and all of you are clear on what your objective is. And so let's move on to the next pieces, which is hiring staff, fulfilling your budget requirements, and then moving over into the future a little bit, trying to anticipate how you're going to make, how you're going to apply for grants to build a facility that's appropriate for your growth and everything, and just stay focused. I think you're in a good shape moving forward.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Clark. Thank you for your support. Peter, don't move yet.
Eric, just one thing. I had to go ahead lunch with one of the MML lobbyists. Again, they don't represent the TAC, and let him know about these two. In fact, I printed out the boilerplate so he could take it back to Lansing to the office. But I said, you do represent all our cities. And so John was going to make that aware at the MML level.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you. You and Peter, you and Clark, I'm sorry I called you Clark, I meant Peter.
Do whatever you wish, sir.
I don't know why, this favor today is, I don't know how I'm about to go home. No, if you would like to give your report while you're present, did you have an update from, other than what you've stated?
I think that's essentially my report, is that we are here to help you through all these transition elements. That's what our contract is. Until that transition is done and it's been in effect, and you know that just by the way you did the budget today, you're still going to be not fully transitioned. You're gonna have an agreement with the city of Battle Creek. There's other issues. Ways to help Mallory and you make sure that this transition occurs nicely. And yeah, everything seems to be moving in just the right direction from how I look at it. We're far more advanced than I thought, considering how much work you have laid out in front of you.
Yeah.
I think you do have some issues that you have to deal with at the city of Battle Creek in terms of coming to some good agreement. I think long-term, you have to figure out that you are now you have now successfully moved into being a new authority. So now you have to wonder how you're going to get other issues resolved. Now, I know exactly where you are because I was there in Grand Rapids, many years ago when we took over as an authority from an existing kind of other authority. It wasn't a city authority. So, and there were issues that had to be done. We had to build a transit center. We had to renovate our operations facility. We had to buy land to do different things. Those will come with patience. You just now move forward, because you've passed the necessary resolutions. You've made the necessary budget assumptions. You're moving forward positively, and you can communicate with your community how you're going to be able to use your millage funds. Your millage funds will be something you'll have to pay attention to. I probably won't be your consultant at that time, but I would advise you to have some forethought about what are you going to do in that last year that you're still under a millage. Because when I was the CEO of the Rapid, I would always work with the board to make sure they had a clear plan about how to deal with that millage. And if you run into an issue where you're trying to pass a millage at the very end of your financial period, you're running the risk. So just think about that, you're only 1 year in technically, so you have 3 more years to look at that issue. But that would be my advice.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. I can invite Jeff Franklin from our BCATS relationship to the podium, please. Any updates today, sir?
I'll keep it very brief. Thank you very much for TACC Board's updated appointments to BCATS today and recognizing that relationship. Thank you very much, Chair Stewart, for regular participation at BCATS over the course of the past year. We did that fairly preemptively so that the MPO transit agency relationship could be very well demonstrated to FTA in the state of Michigan for making this process go as smoothly as possible. I can offer you the same snack level for further future attendance, just a less comfortable seat.
Love it.
Thank you, sir.
Same snack level.
See, everybody, it's the important things. Jeff understands that. All right, thank you. I just want to inform us of our next item, our dates of our next meetings, committee meetings workshop, October 14th, and our next board meeting is on the 28th of October. Any questions, comments for the good of the group?
Yes, I have one. As a personal privilege, I would like to say congratulations to our board member, Janasia, for being Emerging Leader Award, receiving the Emerging Leader Award at MML last weekend. She didn't say anything, but we have it I have a picture of her picture. So she was recognized as Outstanding Leader, Commissioner, City of Battle Creek. Congratulations.
Oh, shoot.
I ain't really want to tell everybody,
You don't
You don't
want
want to
to
make a
tell
big deal
anyone.
out of it, but
This is for the state of Michigan. What do you?
it is a big deal. I don't know. I have a hard time accepting my success because I feel like that's what I'm supposed to do.
But now everyone knows.
Yeah, and I staunchly agree with your position. I disagree with your position, rather,
Oh.
in terms of not everybody's know. As a matter of fact, I as the privilege of the chair and a little bit of backhanded punishment, what I'd like to offer is if you could forward that picture to Mallory, and we put that on the website as one of the achievements of one of our most cherished board
We
members.
can make it a social media post.
This is what I'm talking about. You see what lack of communication gets you?
I love it.
We're gonna put you on blast, Commissioner. No, I'm very proud of, I tell you this, out of all the participation at the board level, both in public and in private, the commissioner has supported me both personally and professionally. And that's an accolade that's well deserved. And don't feel like you got to keep that quiet, because you're a special kind of something. And I'm not going to talk about your age, because the age doesn't matter. You in the position, and you took it seriously. And for someone to come out of the community, grassroots wise, and be Johnny on the spot like you are, and keep me, I'd get us all in trouble up here. You know that. And just to keep me and this piece going, and what you've done for your community and this body is remarkable. And so I've sat in silence and watched you, but based on this conversation today, I can be silent no more. So thank you very much. We appreciate you. All right. Any other? That was good. That was good, Vivian. You're
good.
going a different direction.
Sharon.
Yeah, thank you. I gave you, I'm sorry, I apologize for the look I gave you. Okay, any other good of the group pieces? Peter?
She's texting me and he's reminding me that I probably should have indicated to you that when they go into conference committee and look at these bills, that the governor still has line item veto power. And her legal counsel might certainly advise them to rule something out that's unconstitutional. He's right. There is the governor has power on a line item veto, and I forgot to raise that issue.
Well, that's-
Perfect.
yeah.
Thank you. All right. I'll go ahead and call for adjournment.